Join us as we track the development of children from birth to the school gate. The journey from Nought to Five. The first birthday, a truly magical milestone, around which time many children find their feet. This is the stage of the wobbly walker. 1-year-olds LJ and Zara are keen to explore everything around them. Lauren knows about the joys and strains of parenting this age group. 1-year-olds learn through doing, by emptying and filling containers, opening and closing cupboards, posting objects through openings, and observing people and things around them. They understand a lot of what you say, even if their language is not that developed. Finger food is the name of the game, and many 1-year-olds will be able to sleep as long as their mums and dads at night time. This is Livingston, who's Samoan. Tamara, whose mum is Māori and dad Croatian. She and Livingston work for a company which delivers theatre products to hospitals. Their older daughter Trinity, who's 3. And this is Livingston Jr. 1 year old today. Turning 1 is a special milestone in Samoan culture, so it's celebrated in style. The family are currently living in a 1-bedroom flat. The crampedness of the conditions impacts on how they get LJ to sleep.
At the moment, it's probably not the way I'd like it, but I have to put him down while I'll lay next to him. It's not putting him into a cot out how I'd like to do it. And then sometimes I think he's far past going to sleep. So then that's when Livingston will put him to sleep. And Livy, how do you put him to sleep?
I rock him.
He'll hold him in his lap, put the blanket over, and then just and then just sort of
cuddle and rock him to sleep. Yeah.
Is it wrong that we're doing 2 different things, or
no? I don't think at all. I think that children very much learn about their parents' differences and similarities, and he has something that works for him with Dad that comforts him, that he knows is associated with sleep, and he goes to sleep without any kind of a fuss, and that's great. Okay. And the fact that you're doing something different is totally fun. And I definitely don't think that the fact that he's falling asleep in the presence of a parent, someone who really cares about him, is a problem. I think that's a lovely way for him to fall asleep.
But what about getting into a habit that might be hard to break?
Sit down with Trinity, darling. Good boy. Oh yeah, so what's Daddy?
You might get to him being 2 or 3 and decide this isn't working for you anymore, even if it's working for him, and want to make some changes and make him have a more independent transition to sleep. But you can sort of determine that as time goes along, but in the moment, what you're doing for him is not hurting him in any way. In fact, it's probably helping him and helping him to settle.
I don't know if it's personality, but sometimes Trinity has problems with sharing. So, like, if RJ's got something, she'll just go over and snatch it.
That's my bike.
And sort of a remedy at the moment is just to take off something from her. So she learns that, if she's going to take something from LJ, then we'll take something from her. Is she too young for us to teach her to share?
My hunch is it's something that relates to attention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not actually about sharing.
I don't want to share.
It's quite hard when you're little and a new person comes on the scene and gets a lot of Mom and Dad's attention. And younger children, as he is, by definition, need more of our time and our attention because we have to keep an eye on them all the time and we're constantly looking after them. And that can be quite a difficult adjustment for an older child to make, especially considering that she was only, not even 2 when he was born. When you said, your strategy is to take something off of her if she takes something off of him, I think what she's going to take from that is, I'm bigger than LJ, so I take things off him. Mom's bigger than me, she takes things off me. If you're bigger than somebody, you can kind of lord that over them. Yeah. And I don't think that's the message you actually mean to be sending. And I think with her, more of a gentle emphasis of this is not what we do in this family. We don't take things from people. Kind of, she takes something from him, you need to give that back now, assisting her with giving it back to him, and then giving her some attention.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of focus back on her. So then what that means for LJ is that he sees the behavior that you want him to see modeled, which is the sharing and the calmer interaction. And he doesn't learn that grabbing things off of people is sort of the way we manage the situation, and that it's every man for themselves in the household, and that it's a more cooperative environment.
And I don't want to be a mum that needs to smack them. I think that tone is enough.
The research about smacking is clear. It actually has absolutely no positive benefits for the behavior. It has only negatives. It creates more aggression in a child.
Yeah, that's what I thought. If I do that, then isn't that going to say to her, I'll keep smacking him if he takes something from me?
Yeah, and you've already sorted that out, yeah.
Livingston decides the children need to stretch their legs, and Tamara takes the opportunity to talk more about discipline.
From both our backgrounds, I'm probably where we sort of let the kids just sort of go, within boundaries, but still, probably carefree, where, they're everything in our world. And same as Living's family, but just probably with discipline. Like I don't want to be a smacking parent, but with Livy, he believes that that's, there's no problem in it. We try to be consistent in what we are doing, but I think maybe with Livy, he sort of hasn't consciously thought how he wants to do it, and if he does want to be, a smacking parent too. But probably between us, I'm probably more likely the one that, won't smack from anger. I try, not the perfect mum, but I'll try not to, I'll try and just bring it down first and talk to Trinity, not just straight out with a smack. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the thing about smacking that's really challenging for parents is that, it's quite easy for me to sit here and say, it's not a good thing to smack your kids. But if you were raised in an environment where you were smacked as a child and that was the way you were disciplined, and then someone tells you when you have your own kids, it's not okay for you to smack them, all of a sudden you go, well, does that mean that the way I was raised was bad?
Yeah.
Does that mean there's something wrong with me? I think that's something that conscious parents work through, and they say, okay, well, this might not be the greatest part about the way I was raised, but I'm going to take all the 95% of the other stuff that's great and lovely, and I'm going to bring that to my parenting, and this part I'm going to choose to leave out because it doesn't fit for who I want to be, and it doesn't fit for what works for our family right now.
Ready? Everybody count with Mum.
Since then, Livingston has decided to not be a smacking parent.
Yay.
Did you know I'm just as happy playing with your stuff in the kitchen as with expensive toys? I like lots of new things, so it's easier for you to give me stuff which costs nothing to play with.
Meet our second family. This is Shona, full-time secondary school student.
Yeah, hun.
And 12-month-old Zara, who loves a ride in the pushchair, but has just become a wobbly walker. Zara attends the creche at Eden campus, where Shona goes to school. This is a teen parenting unit, administered by Auckland Girls Grammar. The roll is 25 and the girls do correspondence courses. Shona is doing NCEA Level 3 in English, History, Biology and Maths. She hopes to go to university next year to study optometry or radiology.
How do I do that one?
Shona is 19, so she's on the DPB. She also gets an allowance of $140 a week for Zara's childcare.
How do you make all that work with having a baby and going to school full-time and getting all your schoolwork done?
I try and get as much done while I'm at school, and then when we come home after Zara's gone to bed, I'll do homework, maybe go down to my dad's and do some homework while I'm down there. He lives in Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
But there's one habit they've got into which Shona would love to break.
Yeah. I get her to sleep with a bottle, which is something that I don't really want to continue doing, especially now that she's getting teeth.
Zara sleeps 12 hours during the night and has 2 half-hour sleeps at the creche during the day.
It sounds like it would be easier if she would have one sleep in the day during crash instead of them trying to do two, because it sounds like getting her off to sleep isn't going to be an easy thing, especially if you don't use a bottle. So putting her through that 3 times a day for 2 sleeps and nighttime going to bed seems like we're asking for trouble. You know, let's reduce it if we can to 2 times. And hopefully not only will that put her through less fussing to go to sleep, but it will also mean that she's more tired when you or Crush is trying to get her to sleep.
Shona has also tried using a dummy instead of a bottle.
But you're not real confident that that's gonna be successful, are you?
I'm not into dummies, really. Like,
So you don't want to use a dummy?
not if I don't have to.
Okay.
If it's gonna work and it's the only option, I will, but otherwise it's not really something that I'm fond of. I don't want her walking around when she's 4.5 with a dummy
Right.
in her mouth, sort of thing.
Right. I think the way that I think about it with kids is to not try to focus too much on the future and to think more about what works for now.
Yeah.
I mean, if the dummy is the transition from the bottle, then perhaps in 6 months' time, or by the, you set in your mind, well, okay, I'm not comfortable with this when she's 2. And then you wean her off of the dummy with something else. As kids get older, their coping skills get better.
But it's not just the dependence on the dummy that concerns Shona.
The bottle is more about cavities and stuff, but is the dummy going to affect the way her teeth are growing?
We understand that neither sucking a dummy nor a thumb affects the development of a child's mouth or teeth while they still have their first teeth. Another idea Lauren suggests is, at her age, slowly diluting just the nighttime bottle. First of all, leave 9 parts of milk and add 1 part of water. 2 or 3 days later, leave 8 parts of milk and replace 2 parts with water. Another 2 or 3 days later, you're down to 7 parts of milk and 3 parts of water, and so on.
I mean, she might get to a point where once you're at like 50-50, she goes, what is this that you're trying to fob off on me? But she might tolerate it.
If Shona decides to drop the bottle, she'll have to comfort Zara to sleep. But Zara's not keen on being rocked.
You mentioned that you have some kind of a wrap that you were given when she was born. I mean, you could try to actually wrap her in that sarong sling thing and, play the music that you were trying to play and just sort of walk up and down where she can actually, be grabbing your face and you don't have to, be involved in trying to, pull her back towards you, that she would actually be wrapped in tight.
Yeah.
And the other possibility that some people have a lot of success with is, and again, this is only if you're comfortable with it, is to lie down with her. Like, you can put her in your bed or whatever, not to keep her there, but sometimes people say just pretending to be asleep is boring enough for their child. Now, she might climb out of bed and be gone, but if she thinks, well, you're asleep and it's time to sleep, some kids will actually respond, and then you can lift her back into the cot.
Zara has got out of the habit of Shona being a soothing and comforting influence at bedtime. So Lauren has another idea to put Shona back in the picture.
And basically what you would do is you would give her the bottle in the room, lights down, going to bed. And the first couple of times you tried this, the key would be just for her to let you give her the bottle and not be so distracted by you being there. Then over time, over the next couple of weeks, what you would do is, as you start to see her or feel her get more drowsy, you would gently just take the bottle out of her mouth. What it would do would mean that you would be the one getting her to sleep as opposed to the bottle. So put you in the picture, get the bottle out of the picture, and then slowly help her to sort of go to sleep on her own. Okay. Yeah.
So does Shona get enough time for herself?
Being at school,
Gives you that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we can go down and see them at lunchtime and on our breaks. But I'm still, doing things, but it's just not having her around.
Right.
Her dad's parents will look after Zara basically whenever I want them to. But as I've said to other people, I don't want them to I don't want to just be offloading her whenever I feel like I want to go out or something, because it was my choice to have her.
Right.
And so it should be my responsibility to look after her and raise her.
You clearly have a strong philosophy about being there for your child, and I mean that's perfect. I mean, to me, that's like that you've done the best. That's exactly what you ought to be shooting for.
Something children of this age and older really love is having a book made especially for them.
Look, who's that?
Josh's book has pictures of his immediate family
Daddy and Josh playing on the swing.
and his extended family.
And look at your cousins at Grandma's house. William, Matthew and Jack.
It develops language skills.
Boy,
You can ask him questions like,
who's that? Amanda, yes, big sister Amanda.
there are all sorts of books you can make, like the day you went to the zoo, or when you visited Grandma and Grandpa.
Good night, Josh.
Let me do the same thing over and over, because every time I do it, I learn something new.
Active movement, making the connection between movement and learning to develop the whole child. LJ walked early at 10 months, but Jill is quick to tell people they shouldn't feel any social pressure to get their children on their feet.
Sometimes when people go to coffee groups and people say, you know, is your baby walking yet? And they're not. Sometimes you feel a bit not so good about it, you know, as a mum. And what I really want to say here is that it's important not to rush children into walking, that they'll do it when they're ready, because that time on the floor, see, LJ didn't spend a lot of time crawling, and the importance of crawling is that we develop pathways in the corpus callosum, which is between the two hemispheres of the brain, and those pathways are the communicative links between the two sides of the brain. Now, the more pathways you develop and grow, the better the processing and the better the communication there is between the two sides of the brain. Now, because he didn't crawl, it's not the end of the world. Well, he crawled, but not for very long. It's still important that he gets lots of crawling activity. So these are the kinds of things I want you to think about doing. Maybe covering a chair with a blanket and getting him to crawl through them. Pretend you're a sheep or a cat or something, and crawl around the floor and chase him and play chasing games, doing that kind of thing.
I do it with my daughter. We mimic it like we're a tiger.
Yes.
We're going to go and find LJ and we're going to get him.
Perfect. So everybody's on the floor crawling.
this is good.
And you know, Trinity needs that too. It's right throughout our lives, we still need that cross-pattern movement. Now he's walking, you'll find that he's probably a little bit accident prone. Now some children, because they start walking quite early, often their heads are a wee bit heavier than the rest of their body, so they're a little bit top heavy and they will fall over. The important thing here is that you actually allow them to do that. If we step in straight away and say, whoa, don't do that, you might hurt yourself, we're actually taking away that experience from the child. And in our society today, we're very quick to do that. The other thing is, when they do have an accident, and they will, it's really important to try not to overreact.
Up the hill. Oh.
Naughty ground.
Oh no.
Sure, you have to cuddle your child and give them reassurance that they're okay, but they're learning about what sort of reaction you're going to give. And if you overreact and say, oh, my poor baby, you're all right, and all this kind of stuff, you're going to find that every time they hurt themselves, they're going to come running to you.
Bye, Daddy. Bye, Trinity.
Experiencing the outdoors is great for children, for all sorts of reasons. And letting them have bare feet outside is even better.
Bare feet gives the children a sensory stimulation that they need. They learn about different textures through skin, and bare feet is one of the best ways to do that. So if you can get them walking on grass and on, even bark and all sorts of different surfaces and textures that you have around the home, and talk about them while you're doing that. Talk about, hey, that's a bit prickly, isn't it? How does that feel? Does that feel smooth and gooey and all that kind of stuff? So he learns that language while he's actually feeling it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, he does. He does do that.
You know, at this age, it's an important age to start posting. They'll put things in your video machine and in your DVD player because they need to learn about the release grip, all that kind of thing. When you go for a walk to the park, give them some sticks and some leaves and say, hey, can you post this leaf into the letterbox? I'm sure the neighbours won't mind too much. But it's teaching them all about their spatial awareness, how big things are, how wide things are, do they fit through spaces, etc.
Going up and down the hill outside his house stimulates LJ's vestibular system, or balance.
Now, inside LJ's ears, he has little tubes that have wee hairs inside them. And as he moves, the fluid inside there washes over all the little nerve endings, and what that does is that sends messages to the brain telling the brain you're in or out of balance. The vestibular system contributes to emotional, balance, muscular, visual development of the child. It's concentration. It's pretty global in the child. And we find that children's ability to be able to control their body, to be able to move through space is all controlled by the vestibular system.
So activities like lifting your child upside down are really important.
I've got my thumbs on his knees or just above his knees because you don't want to lift him upside down with your hands on your ankles. It's quite a weak joint. So make sure you go right up above the knees here, and we're going to go upside down. Are you ready, LJ? Here we go. Good boy. And hands down. Hands down. Good boy. Well done. That was great.
Spinning little ones on your back 1 revolution every 8 seconds, or on your lap on an office chair, have similar benefits.
Yeah, always out of mine.
Always make sure you go the other way.
Sorry, my hand They always say that, you know, your time is the best time with them, and that really emphasises on
And
that.
being active.
Realising what else you can teach them.
The thing about this age is toys really aren't all that important. It's the environment and playing and exploring and pulling things out and pushing them back into cupboards and all that kind of stuff is what children at this age need to do.
Next time, it's the turn of the toddlers, the stage of growing independence.